big one. Chris Eubank Jr., Conor Benn. If I don't see you before the fight, I have to ask you about it. First of all, we touched on you getting into boxing. In terms of surreal moments, you was there. Chris Eubank Sr. walking out the car that moment. We've seen it repeated so many times, the videos, the edits, everything. And you was fortunate to see their fathers, and now you see their kids obviously fighting again, the rematch. Is that possibly the most surreal moment? One of the most surreal moments is Chris Eubank Sr. walks out the car. I think Junior said that he will be there on Saturday night, but how excited?
That moment was just theatre, wasn't it? And that's why we love this sport and all the stories that it comes up with, and the history, the legacy, the surprises. That he can't be there. It's only the three of them. He is there. You know, it was a really momentous sort of night, I think, in April. Chris Eubank Senior was one of my heroes as a teenager. I loved Tommy Hearns, Barry McGuigan, and I loved Chris. And then I was always Chris against Nigel. And then when I worked with them at Sky, I really liked working with Nigel Benn, and Steve Collins, all good guys. So yeah, for me, it's fantastic that the sons have come through. I remember Conor when he was a kid, and he came on the ringside set, and his dad was saying, "Oh, he punches harder than me. Watch out for him." And we're thinking, yeah, you know, we've heard this before. And look what they're doing. They're selling out stadiums, and the two of them put on such a wonderful, fantastic, epic battle first time around. It was pulsating from start to finish, and all the hoopla and the controversy, and people saying, "Oh, you know, these two, it's not worth it," or "It's not." I mean, they left their souls in there that night. The spirit of their fathers, of themselves, of what it meant, the pride, the machismo, the names of Eubank and Benn. And I think it can only be round 13. I think they're going to kick off where they left off. I think Conor Benn is going to feel a lot more confident this time at middleweight, that he can find the answer. He'd been out the ring a long time before, obviously at the lighter weight, but Eubank gutted it out down the stretch. I thought he was brilliant, and I expect him to be brilliant again. So it's a really interesting fight. But yeah, these nights will go down in history. So yeah, it was a surreal moment when Chris Senior walked out the limo, but also it's just sort of come full circle, that whole story. I'm a storyteller. I love stories. I love sport, and I love heroes, and this is what these nights give us. So I think at Tottenham next Saturday we're going to get repeat or revenge, but we're going to get a rematch, which is going to be one for the ages. It's going to bookend this year, you know, April and November, the big nights. Of course, we've had Usyk beating Dubois and other major sort of statements. Fabio Wardley's was pretty good the other night, and of course we've got that fantastic show in Riyadh to come the week after. We've got Ben Whittaker, we've got Matchroom's big show in Monaco. We've got lots to look forward to before Christmas, but I think this is one of those moments that seeps into the casual audience, and next week's going to be a lot of fun. I think it's going to get a huge amount of traction again, and we don't know who's going to win, and those are always the great ones where you just can't really pick it. 8-man tournament on Saturday, nobody knows. Eubank Jr. and Benn go at it again, nobody knows. But what I think even the fighters themselves can agree on is that they gave us something really special in April, and if they can go there again, even 2/3 of the way, or 3/4, or even better and full throttle, hey, we're going to have a phenomenal night on November the 15th.
Definitely, no, Adam. I don't want to keep you too much longer, but just one more on that fight. You may say it's different to me, but I feel like in these interviews, and I think next week this might change, but you can see the respect, and as much as you see Conor trying to maybe rile Eubank up and almost play his game, but you can see they both respect each other massively. But then I saw Simon Jordan say he's seen better fights in Wetherspoons. Do you think we're going to see an absolute brawl, or do you think that respect might come into it and maybe get like a slower fight? Or what do you expect?
Better fights in Wetherspoons. I mean, I love Simon, and I don't go to Wetherspoons much, but I did see a fantastic fight, and you can say, oh, it's not world champion against world champion. You can say what you want, but these two are very, very good fighters, and they put on an absolute thunderstorm. It was terrific, and I loved every minute of being ringside and calling it. Declan Rice was sitting right behind me. He's a big Conor Benn fan and a big boxing fan, and he just absolutely loved every second. And I think like the 70,000 that were in there with him, that night. Everybody had the same feeling. Everyone watching it live on DAZN, and will be again next Saturday. I think the two of them have huge respect, and I think they had respect before, obviously, with their fathers, and they're very different characters. We know, Chris speaks in a different way. Conor is very raw, and Conor doesn't like him particularly. I don't think Chris really cares, but actually they have huge respect for each other, and more so. They've shared 12 rounds with each other. They both had their injuries afterwards. They went to hospital. They, as I said before, they bared their souls in there, and I think fighters find that. I look back at Froch and Groves and the hatred there, and there was real hatred, and hatred beyond their two fights as well. I remember in Vegas when I was commentating with Carl, and George was sitting over doing some stuff with radio, and I said, Carl, go over and have a chat with George, and he's like, what? And I'm like, come on, we can do this, we can sort this out. And he didn't want to, and it took us at Sky actually to get the two of them working side by side together. And I remember the meeting before the night that happened, and we were in there, and Carl was sitting with us, and George came in, and I was like, come on, and Carl went over and said, how are the family? And it broke the ice, and now, they dine out on it. They dine out on their history. They tour the country together and do shows. And will they ever be besties? I don't think so. Maybe they won't swap Christmas cards, but there is a massive respect. Same with Barrera and Morales. That was one of the most bitter feuds that went back to a football match when they were kids, when there was a nasty tackle that went in, and those two absolutely hated each other. It took their wives for them to come back and go out for dinner, and now they do. They share dinners together after their 3 epic fights. So I think Chris and Conor probably won't ever end up being besties, but there will be that respect, and I think this time there's more respect. I think you're right. You can see it in some of the interviews. There is a sort of a begrudging like, or a sort of almost like a comic effect, that they find each other quite funny in their different ways, even though they don't want to admit it, and they'll be zoned in on trying to smash the other one up on Saturday night next week. But yeah, I think when it's all said and done, just like their dads, there will be that respect, and I think they'll know that they're fused in history forever, and boxing's tapestry will remember the Eubank Benn feuds, the dads, and now the sons. So yeah, I think they'll be dining out on it for a long time to come. But let's get through next Saturday first, because if Conor wins, of course, it's one apiece, and there'll be a big call for a trilogy, won't there?
Definitely, no, Adam. Just before I let you go, one last person I want to talk about, possibly my favourite person in boxing to talk about right now, Dave Allen, obviously a friend of GBM. We're hearing maybe he returns January 24th, possibly Leeds, possibly Newcastle. And it sounds like that'll be an 8-rounder, and then we're looking at maybe another big one in Sheffield. I just want, I know, and again, you can't predict boxing; it's such an unpredictable sport. But say that Sheffield fight does happen, and we're looking at another opponent. Who would you like to see Dave in there? So we've seen him with Makhmudov, and he said he wants someone big. He mentioned Jili Zhang, and I asked him about that, and he said, actually, I don't really fancy that. He's a southpaw. He's big. I don't really fancy. How can Dave Allen end his career on a high?
Dave Allen's a refreshingly honest guy, and that's why everybody loves him. I thought the homecoming reception that he had in Sheffield, and remember it was the day after Ricky's funeral, there was a lot of emotions sort of flying around that day. The reception was a little bit like Ricky used to get at the MEN. It was an amazing moment, I thought. One of the moments of the year, one of the ring walks of the year. He wasn't quite good enough, and Makhmudov was excellent and deserves his props for that night. And Dave was brutally honest, as he always is afterwards, just saying I wasn't there at that level. And who would I like to see him fight? Look, it's up to Dave and the team. Obviously, the most important thing about Dave Allen is that he's in a good place, mentally and physically, and I think that he has been in the last year or two under Jamie and Nigel. I think he's found his place again. I've loved commentating with him on a GBM show or two. I've loved seeing him in the corner with the likes of Joe Hayden and others, and he's just a really good guy to have around boxing. Fighting on is up to him and up to his team. I'll support Dave whatever, in and out of the ring. I think he's a hugely important part of British boxing. I don't know, maybe the winner of TKV and Fraser, something like that. Maybe that's the answer. I know he'd love to fight for a British title. It'd be good to see him fight somebody like that, or another around that level. There's loads of heavyweights that he could fight. There's the likes of Huey Furies. There's the Jordan Thompson who just lost out in the States. There's loads of heavyweights he could fight. Riakporhe and Welsh is a good fight next week, and so there's lots of sort of domestic dust-ups that could be on the radar. I know that the name that was bandied around before the Makhmudov was Wilder, which was always the sort of mad thing. And I know Deontay Wilder absolutely loves Sheffield. He's been over here before. He's got a big soft spot for Yorkshire. He's a good mate of mine. I think he'll probably maybe be aiming a little bit higher. No disrespect to Dave, he'll probably want a Joshua fight or something like that. But yeah, I'd like to see Dave in against any number of fighters. But just so long as Jamie Moore's the most important person alongside Dave in this. He won't want Dave to fight on too long, but he'll want to make sure that he does what he needs to wrap up his career. And I think a British title shot is what Dave would absolutely love. He won that belt, didn't he, against Johnny Fisher? I think they hit it under the cupboard, or he lost it under the stairs within a couple of days. But wouldn't it be nice to see him fight for a Lonsdale belt? I think that would be really good. So yeah, let's see what happens with Fraser and TKV, and maybe the winner of that in 2026 would be a nice fight for Dave Allen.